Okay. The Gemara had said, quoted a Brisa. We're on Chesed Beis. The Gemara had quoted a Brisa. Thank you. New format, both sides of the page. Yeah. That Surya is considered Kibush Yochid. David HaMelech, it was his personal conquest. So we had said yesterday, Rashi explains that why is it a question of Kibush Yochid Shmei Kibush? Is it a valid conquest or not? So he says the conquest of Canaan was on behalf of Klal Yisrael. It was all Jews on behalf of everyone. David, it was his personal conquest. Not all Jews weren't involved. He had his army who went, but it wasn't representing all Klal Yisrael and wasn't on behalf of all Klal Yisrael. Therefore, is the question: does it have the ramifications of the original conquest? Does it have Kedushas Haaretz? So the Gemara says, we quoted a Brisa that since Surya is Chayv b'Maiser b'Shvius, clearly it says it has Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. So evidently, this position holds Kibush Yochid Shmei Kibush, that the conquest of an individual, we're not talking about any individual, we're talking about of a king, is considered a conquest, and therefore it takes on all the halachic ramifications of Eretz Yisrael. Tosis, it's important, Tosis. Over here on Amud Aleph cites a Sifri, which says differently than Rashi. Take a look on Ches Amud Aleph. Pirush b'kunchi shlo l'shem kol Yisrael b'yachad k'mo b'kibush Yehoshua. His conquest was not on behalf of all Klal Yisrael, as the conquest of Yeshua. V'kivshua v'kavshua l'tzorach kulam. Yeshua, when he conquered the land, it was on behalf of all of them. Avol David lo kovash el l'tzorcho. When David conquered, it was only for his own personal interest. Of the Sifri Meforish, the Sifri explains it differently. Tamacher b'so parshas Vayekev, the mashal v'yishlohoya adayin kol Yisrael kvusha. The reason why it's a question whether it was valid, what do you conquer first? First you conquer all Eretz Yisrael, you want to expand, you have a right to expand. Meaning, it was too early, his conquest took place before Eretz Yisrael was conquered. Kid'om ha'hosam, somach l'pal tura shaloch lo horshua, lo horashto. Right near your palace, you haven't conquered yet. What does that mean? Pirush Yevusi shal yisomach Yerushalayim. One of the Canaanite nations, which is called Yevusi, was on the outskirts of Yerushalayim. They weren't conquered yet. V'atoholech v'kovish Aram Naraim v'Aram Tzova. And you're going all the way to Syria to conquer Aram Naraim, Aram Tzova. You haven't conquered what's in your backyard. Where are you going elsewhere? Therefore, that causes question why the conquest may not be a valid conquest. No question.
So why would he have not?
He knew it. Well, evidently, it's a claim. It's a claim. It's a claim.
How would you? We say he lived for Hashem. Everything he did was l'shem Shemaim.
He did. No question. He did l'shem Shemaim. But you could. No. You could make a mistake. We're not saying it was due to his. He just wanted material. He understood Aram Tzova. First, why did he go to Syria? I mean, we said Syria, Akku is the farthest northern outside of Israel location. And from Akku to Syria, it's quite a distance. What about all the in between? Why did he conquer that? Why did he go back to Aram Tzova, Aleppo and Aram Naraim? That's where Avram Avinu was. Evidently, there's something innate in that location on a spiritual level that has special value. Wait. But nevertheless, if the mistake was, but still, outside your palace, that has to be addressed first. Right? It definitely was l'shem Shemaim. Yeah, but again, the claim was Yevusi. The Yevusi is in your backyard, is right outside your palace. Why don't you first clean up your act in your own backyard, then we'll talk about going elsewhere.
Only 7 that was left were those ones that received Yehoshua and became
The Givonim. No, eventually they were conquered. Yevusi eventually were. They were. By David. Afterwards, they were eventually. But you know, there's your priorities. Which priority is a priority? Since you addressed that before this, that causes question. Is it valid or is it not valid? He says, Yitzchak of Shua, but after all Eretz Yisrael has been conquered, then you could capture. You conquer whatever you conquer. That's you extend Eretz Yisrael. Dichsiv, Dorsha, Dichsiv. Kol mokum shetidro kach raglechem. Wherever your feet will trample, you will walk. That becomes Eretz Yisrael. Shkol masho yukoshim chutzlot sheyokodesh afilu yochid. Then even, according to the Sifri, even though it was a personal conquest, if the intent is to incorporate Eretz Yisrael, even though it's for your personal means for David, also l'shem Shemayim. Whatever that was, it takes on Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. But because it was too early, therefore it's not, that's the question, is it valid or not? So we cited a Brisa. This Brisa holds it is a valid conquest, even though it was done too early. Is it a claim? It's a claim against them. Hashem said, David, when he conquered, he didn't conquer on a natural level. It was supernatural. The Gemara says, when David would shoot an arrow, that one arrow pierced 800 people. It caused 800 casualties. You understand? There wasn't such an expenditure on weaponry with David. It was miraculous. So you think they're Yavusi? And when he killed Goliath, how did he kill him? Everybody thinks he had a slingshot. David and Goliath. It was a miracle. Firstly, do you know the bone structure of Goliath's skull? For the stone to penetrate that, it's not simple. And what about he was wearing a bronze helmet on top of it, which covered his forehead? It pierced it as if it was putty. It was a miracle that the stone went straight through his brain and killed him. That was a miracle. It didn't happen. Whatever David did was on a miraculous level. The Yevusim had nothing. So address first what's closer before you go further. That was the claim against him. Hashem says, I'm with you. Take care what your affairs which have to be addressed immediately, and then go somewhere else. Nothing. He did it. He did it on his own. But you're right. Aram Tov, what's so special? Aram Narayim. The only relevance that we have is because of what? Because the Avos were there, right? That originally, where did Avraham Avinu come from? That's where he came from. That's where the Emos came. They went back. Lavan, that's where he lived. Rivka lived there. That's where they came from. Otherwise, what's so special about Aram Tov, Aram Narayim? It's interesting. In the Middle East, in at least the past 1,000 years, the most important community outside of Eretz Yisrael was Aleppo. Aleppo was the primary location of Torah learning in the Middle East. That was Aleppo. So you'd say, well, they went back for nostalgic reasons, No, but evidently there's something there. Aleppo had a certain value. Damascus had a Jewish community, but whatever Damascus was, it wasn't Aleppo. Aleppo was much more advanced. Okay? Back to the Gemara. That's after post-Bofet. V'akod is so there. We're quoting the Brisa. The Brisa says we're equating Eretz Yisrael to a field in Syria. It's Kekone beParur Yerushalayim. Purchasing a field in the best of Yerushalayim. It's the best quality real estate you could buy. When you purchase a field in Syria, what does it mean? Lamai Hilsa, in what sense? Meaning the value of that purchase mean if it should present itself, you should not leave a stone unturned to bring it about. In regard to what? Even you have to write a document. Now, Ksiva is Nis Doraisa on Shabbos. You're not permitted to write. What if you purchase something with money? It says Karka, fixed property, can be acquired with one of three ways. Keser, Shtar, Chazoka. You give value, writing a document, or Chazoka, you make a physical alteration in the land. You change the lock, you put up a fence, you dig in the field. That's Chazoka. Demonstrating ownership. That's Chazoka. Kesef is rabbinical. But Shtar and Chazoka, it's Doraisa. If you do that on Shabbos, and this is Doraisa. It's a problem. So let's say in Yerushalayim, a non-Jew owns property, or anywhere in Israel, and it presents itself that you're able to purchase it on Shabbos. And the only way you can purchase it is with a document or with a Chazoka. What do you do? Let's say a document. So, of course, the only time you're permitted to violate Shabbos is if it's pikuach nefesh, right? That supersedes the Torah. What about if you instruct a non-Jew to write the document on your behalf on Shabbos? That's called shvus, amira lakum shvus. You're not permitted to tell a non-Jew to anything that you're not permitted to do. That's amira lakum shvus. You're not permitted. But there's certain situations where it's an overriding factor because of the importance of the mitzvah. You're permitted. The mitzvah cause is the overriding factor. Okay? So let's say over here you need a document to transact, to cause the transfer from the non-Jew's domain to the Jew's domain. And you have to have a document. You have to instruct the goy, write a document, I will pay for it, whatever it is, and we're going to I'm going to purchase from you. Normally you couldn't do it on Shabbos. But because of the value of the transfer, because there's a mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, that we should take the non-Jews out of Eretz Yisrael, that the ownership should be only Jewish ownership, that becomes an overrunning factor. Yishuv Eretz Yisrael is like paramount, and therefore the shvus will not interfere with that. And therefore there's a special dispensation in this area, because Tosas makes it a point. There's a Ran in Shabbos we had, let's say Milah. The Gemara says Milah is a very special mitzvah. First, Milah is normally Docha Shabbos, whatever it is. But there are other things which it's not the Milah, it's to facilitate the Milah. Let's say you have to heat water to a certain, and one time the child had to be washed with hot water before the bris, otherwise the child would be, you actually putting the child's life in jeopardy. Let's say he had no water. Are you permitted to tell a non-Jew on Shabbos, heat the water, so I should be able to do the bris? So the Gemara says it's permitted. Why? Because it's Amir Lakum Shvus, B'Mokum Mitzvah. So the Rishonim say, the Ran cites a Bahag in Shabbos, in Shabbos, that Milah is Nichrusul Yud Gimel Brisis. The word bris is mentioned 13 times in the Torah regarding bris Milah. So because of the importance of bris, that's why it's that mitzvah. Shvus B'Mokum Mitzvah is not an effect because of that mitzvah. It has to be unique, a paramount mitzvah. But for an ordinary mitzvah, the mitzvah does not override, does not supersede the shvus. There you need a shvus tishvus. You need a double shvus. You understand? If it's double, meaning telling the non-Jew something you're not permitted to do, and what you're not permitted to do, let's say, would be rabbinical. Right? That's a double shvus in a mokum mitzvah. Okay? There's a whole discussion. If there's no eruv, and you want to take the child to shul for Milah, that's the only way you could serve. So the non-Jew is going to carry the child. If there's no, if it's not a bona fide rishus rabbin, definitely permitted. Definitely it's shvus tishvus mokum mitzvah. Carrying in a carmel is only yisur rabbanon. Telling the non-Jew to do something you're not permitted to do is rabbanon. So here it's coupled. This telling the non-Jew something that you're not permitted to do rabbinically. And since it's the context of Milah, not even a question. Take the child back. You can't leave the child in shul. It's not a problem, even though it's not a mitzvah. But again, it's a shvus to shvus, because carrying the child back, it's going through it's a rabbinical rishus. It's not a doraisa. But going back, let's say it would be a rishus arabi. Let's say it would be Manhattan. It's not so simple. You can take the child back after the child's circumcised. But then it would be a question of pikuach nefesh. If the situation is not, once the child is not cared for properly after the bris, it's not simple, right, to take the child back. This is, firstly, here you want to secure the property, that it's literally indisputable that you're the owner. So you need a document. You need the deed to prove that you're the owner. So it's not only the purchasing, you need the proof, the irrefutable proof. The chazaka. Yeah. Va'afilu b'Shabbos. So the Gemara originally says you could write the document even on Shabbos. The Gemara originally thinks that the Jew himself could write the document. So it says, Afilu b'Shabbos? Afilu b'Shabbos so kadaitach. I mean, do you consider violating the Shabbos to write the document? It's in this Doraisa Ksiva. He instructs the non-Jew to write the document on his behalf. Although telling the non-Jew, instruct the non-Jew to do something that you're not permitted to do is a shvus, is rabbinically not permitted. Mishum Yishuv Eretz Yisrael lo gozu rabbanon. To settle Eretz Yisrael, that it should be only Jewish ownership, that's an overriding factor. The Chazal did not legislate the provision there. Therefore, it's permitted. So Rashi over here says, one second. Mishum Yishuv Eretz Yisrael uses a strong term. Legarish Ovdi Kochovim Relation Yisrael Bo. You hear this? To drive out the non-Jews and settle Jews there. You hear the term, drive them out. Well, it's using the Rashi is using the term the Torah. When you conquer the land, you will drive them out.
So this is the Mokum Mitzvah.
That's and it's a paramount mitzvah. It's not just an ordinary mitzvah.
There's no double shvut in this.
No, that's what Tosfos makes it a point. You only need the double shvus if it's an ordinary mitzvah. But if it's a mitzvah which is classified as a paramount mitzvah, like Milah or Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, even if it's a single shvus, they permit it.
It could be the single shvut. So basically, you could, for Mila, you could have a boy walk through Rishut HaRabah.
Correct. Carrying the child, correct. It's like telling the non-Jew, heat water, cook water on behalf of the child to bathe the water. It's not a problem. That's what Tosfos speaks about.
You don't need the double.
You don't need the double. You don't need
So
it.
what are these paramount mitzvot?
Only these two.
Only two.
Milah and taking possession. Taking possession of Eretz Yisrael. That's Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Oh, that's what it's based on. No, because if you hold kibush yochid shmei kibush. No, there's wait. There's the argument kibush yochid shmei kibush lo shmei kibush. But if you're of the opinion kibush yochid shmei kibush, and that's why you have chai b'meiser u'b'shviyus. So there's no difference between Syria and Eretz Yisrael. It says there's a mitzvah to settle Eretz Yisrael. There's a mitzvah to settle Syria. It's the same thing. But the Gemara says who is the opinion of this brayso? The second line on the page. Kosovar, the ton of this brayso is of the opinion, but it's a question. It's machlokes tanoim. It's machlokes tanoim elsewhere. Is kibush yochid shmei kibush, not shmei kibush? Is it a valid conquest or not? First, it's not a stam mishnah. It's not a mishnah. So it's a brayso. Many braysos. It's an argument, but it's not. Doesn't have to bring machlokas. If let's say you're the only one saying a shir, so the person thinks they think everything is what you say, right? Okay, you got it right.
So according to Torah law, there is no prohibition in asking a boy to do something that violates a
Wait. Good. Let's exactly. You're not permitted something you're not permitted to do. This which we have. Rashi explains Milah. We normally say shlich shom kavoso, that the action of the agent is equivalent to your action. So normally say, let's say we had in Kedushin, if a person delegates a shlich, an agent, to steal or to commit murder, that's a shlich of the bar aveira, right? That because it's in the context of aveira, the concept of shlichus doesn't apply. Okay? And therefore, even though there's a degree of liability to the one who delegated the agent, but who's put to death? The murderer or the thief. He's the one who has the liability. Causality, b'dei shamayim, you have liability, but court, you cannot be prosecuted in the court. At all. A non-Jew delegates, even though the law of agency has no relevance to a non-Jew has full liability. If he delegates a shliach to kill a person, the non-Jew is liable. But based on psukim, based on verses. The Gemara Kedushin doesn't discuss this. So I said then, when we learned it in Kedushin, that if you have abortion is murder. Even for a Jew, it's murder. You're in violation of lo tirtzach. It says do not commit murder includes aborting a fetus. Okay? Except for a Jew to be liable for murder, it has to be a full life. So it's only a human being. That means once the child's born into existence. A non-Jew, Torah says, lo tirtzoch, even as long as it's taking a life. It doesn't have to be a full life. So let's say you have a Gentile doctor, gynecologist, and the woman says to him, I want you to abort my child. And the patient's a non-Jew. So she's on the anesthesia, let's say when they do the procedure. She's liable for the death penalty, no different than the doctor. Because since she instructed the doctor to abort her child, and it's only because of her, she has full liability, as if she aborted the child herself. No, but a shliach, a Jew, yeah, but we have a shliach. The only way you link the one who delegated it to him, because he has to represent him. Torah says the concept of representation has no relevance if it's a context of avera. That's a shliach devar avera. That's the way we rule. Who has the liability? The liability is the shliach. So now you appoint. We say ein shlichus lakum. A non-Jew cannot be the agent of a Jew. Cannot be the agent of a Jew. So if I say to a non-Jew, cook for me on Shabbos, write a document for me on Shabbos, what is it? Factually, it has no linkage to the one who delegated it. But in the man's mind, factually speaking, you are representing me. So that after a while, if we allow a person to appoint, to instruct a non-Jew to act on his behalf on Shabbos, person, so it doesn't make sense. He's only doing because I instructed him. And there is a concept of shlichus. He'll see him as his agent. So if he and I are basically the same person, I might as well do it myself. If I can't do it through a non-Jew, let's say he'll come up with a situation he can't do it through a non-Jew. He'll do it himself. Because he's already accustomed to instructing someone, and he puts it in the context of shliach. So if he's I, and if I'm not able to delegate, I'll do it myself. So it's a fence. It's a rabbinic fence, because there is a concept of shlichus regarding a Jew, and it's being done within the context of shlichus. Although shlichus has no relevance to a non-Jew, that we establish a fence, instructing a non-Jew to do something that you cannot do, it's not permitted. Right? That's Rashi. That's the rationale of Amir Lakum Shvus. Okay, now, it's interesting. There's a Gemara in Bava Metzia, a Jew, the Torah says, Lo sachrish shor b'disho. You're not permitted to muzzle an ox when it threshes. It's lo saseh. So if a Jew muzzles an animal then threshes with it, he's liable for malchus. What about if you instruct your non-Jewish foreman, when you thresh the wheat with my ox, make sure to muzzle him. So you're instructing to do something that you're not permitted to do. So as a shayla, do we say Amir Lakum Shvus or don't we say Amir Lakum Shvus? More Bava Metzia. What's the question? What are the sides of the question? Maybe when do we legislate such a fence with the liability is Koris or Bisis Bezdin? Shabbos or Yom Kippur or Yom Tif, because a person can confuse Yom Tif with Shabbos. That's what we're concerned, that a person may have this confusion. But muzzling an animal, it's only a lo saseh. Doesn't have the severity of Shabbos and Yom Tif or Yom Kippur. Maybe we don't, or we say no. Since factually the person may ultimately violate it himself, even though for a lo saseh we will legislate Amir Lakum Shvus. The Gemara leaves it unresolved. And therefore, b'halacha, if you want to tell a non-Jew, it's not simple. Let's say we're talking about castration. If the person was a farmer, and they have to castrate. Castration was part of the being a farmer. So that if you would instruct your foreman, castrate the bull. This is a question. Amir Lakum Shvus. So lo saseh, you're not permitted to tamper, to alter the reproductive organs even of an animal. Staying a cat, a dog, whatever, right? The person's a veterinarian. If he's a Jew, he's not permitted to do it. So he'll have an associate who'll be a non-Jew. So for that procedure, is he permitted to tell his associate, you do that? It's a question of what? Maybe Nishrabon, not Nishtaraisa. Amir Lakum Shvus. Should not be done. Since the Gemara leaves it unresolved, it should not be done. Barbers, no. So there's a question. There it's much worse. You're in violation of this Doraisa. Not because that's not Shvus. There, that's Doraisa. Going to a non-Jewish barber and allowing him to cut you're in violation of having your sideburns cut. You're both liable. We'd have to come out to Amir Lakum Shvus and tell you why you're not permitted to have a haircut, to have your sideburns cut, or you take a shave with a razor.
something requires a double shvut, with the exception of the two.
Correct.
Now, what about switching on the lights in the shul for the congregation, or turning up the heat for the congregation? How do we rationalize?
They have to
that?
come on because tzibur is the equivalent of that. The tzibur for a community is not. You can't daven in shul unless they have lights. That they rely on. It also takes on that special level of
That's
value.
the third.
That's the third. Correct.
So
Correct.
there is another.
Correct. Correct.
But the Chazal, because they set up the fence, they could actually put limitations on the fence.
Exactly.
And that's what we're saying.
It says, Mishum Yishuv has lo gozer rabbanon. They never decreed this fence. They never legislated this fence because of the value, the importance of the Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, settling Eretz Yisrael, for that reason.
And what about on a private individual? I come home and my lights are out. I want to have my Shabbos meal. Am I allowed to tell my boy to turn on the lights?
You have to tell him in a way where the non-Jew is doing it on his own behalf.
It's not as simple as doing it.
No, definitely not. Even a shul superintendent, if it could be preempted. Say, I'll tell him on Shabbos. No, I mean, if you could tell him before Shabbos, he should be told before Shabbos.
No, but it didn't happen.
Didn't happen. It malfunctioned.
Yeah.
So
Something
some
was delayed.
whatever it was.
Right.
The house, it's something else. It's very easy to work out. I mean, if you know how to maneuver it. You tell the non-Jew, I want you to go look for something. And the lights are out. Even though you may not need what you're asking him to do. But the non-Jew cannot find it unless he turns on the lights. Why is he turning on the lights? For himself. Once he turns it on for himself, you can benefit from that light. It's not a problem.
Can you tell the story on Friday afternoon? Turn on the lights at 10 o'clock.
It's not simple. These things are not simple. Even if things are prearranged, you have to have a certain mitzvah aspect to it. If it has no mitzvah aspect, even pre-arranged, it's not permitted.
And what about turning?
Like going up in an elevator on Shabbos. You could tell them before arrange it, but factually, how are you even permitted to go on the elevator? It's not simple. The answer is because, again, within rabbinical, the leniency is why you permit it. So it's because you're in a situation where it's not possible and you have to go to your apartment. Therefore, it's permitted. But to get the elevator moving, you have to press a button. So there is a mitzvah aspect. So if it's prearranged before Shabbos, it's okay. But to tell them directly on Shabbos, press the button, take me up, you're not permitted to tell them on Shabbos.
So how would you recommend telling a Shabbos girl in your house that it's either too hot or it's too cold, and to make an adjustment?
If you tell them it's too hot, too cold.
How would you?
No,
how would
you allude to the situation and say, something, it's very hot here, and I think for your interest and mine, I think you'll be more comfortable.
Okay.
Right? Cold, but it has to be cold where it could actually, no, it has to be where it's a question of a person's health could be compromised. If it's so cold that your health could be compromised, Korah you consider a choler. Since you could become ill from it, that becomes an overriding factor. Okay, let's just start Tosas over here. This is what Tosas speaks about, that the exception is what? Is Milo. We don't normally say, we're not lenient on Shvus. Avogav de Amir Lovik Mishum Yishver Tzel Gozer Rabbanan. Avo Mishum Mitzvah Acheres. But if it would be another mitzvah other than Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, Lo Hayinu Matirin Amir Lovik Kochomim Mlocha Doraisa. Again, this is important. The Mlocha Doraisa. If we it's Rabbanan, that's called Shvus to Shvus Mokar Mitzvah. Right? The Mlocha Doraisa Perak Hador, as it's evident in Eruvin. Hahu Yenuko Dishtapech Chamimei. You hear this? This child, the water had actually spilt out. Also Kami de Rovo. They came before Rovo. Omel L'shai L'imei Tzrichot Nechaim Ilei Agavi. Here. The child had to be washed with hot water. The water had spilt out, and they had to heat water. So they said, we permitted to heat the water directly to the child. It says, ask the mother up to a certain point. If he needs hot water, it's pikuach nefesh. You're permitted to violate Shabbos on her behalf. If the mother needs water, since we're talking about marbe b'shir, marbe b'shir is not as severe. Ask her when we heat the water for her. We'll use the water that you're heating for the child. It seems that it was on the 8th day. And it's speaking about pre-mila. You needed the water to wash the child, to prepare the child that he should be physically fit to be circumcised. The mila, because it was after he was circumcised. Misukanu, the child's in a state of danger. He has to be washed. It's pikuach nefesh. So we'd have to come on to warm up the water if the mother is in need of the water. And it's clear it's speaking about who was heating the water. A non-Jew. If it's pikuach nefesh, we don't need a non-Jew. The Jew himself could heat it. The chayo means a woman who had just given birth. Mishiva at shloshim, from the 7th day through the 30th. Even if she says, the mother says, I need something, we don't violate Shabbat. So therefore, it can't be a Jew. So who is heating the water for the mother? A non-Jew. Because the Gemara says explicitly, once we reach the 7th day, from 7th to 30, even the mother says, I need something, we don't violate Shabbos. To be continued.